Hello, teachers, and welcome back to Teachers Help Teachers. I'm your host, Esther Yoon, and back with us is Lee Kessner. Thank you, Lee, for joining us again.
Thank you.
So I invited Lee to talk to me. It's actually going to be an exchange of ideas, a discussion, if you will, between Lee and me about mastery learning and grading. Currently in our district, and I believe this course, Mastery Learning and Grading, was offered at our school site last year. And Lee jumped in and took the course. I decided not to at the time, and I really, really regret it. But I'm currently taking the online part of Mastery Learning and Grading. And I'm telling you, it's been such a mind-blowing experience, a paradigm shift for me. Lee, would you say so too about mastery learning and grading?
Oh, absolutely. It was so eye-opening.
And so I want to develop a three-part series where today, the first part, we're focusing on a shift from traditional grades to standards-based grades. And I want to start out with traditional grades. What are they? And also, what's wrong with them? You know, Lee, I don't know about you, but um, we're both products of traditional grades, right, as students. But for me, as a veteran teacher of 19 years, I used traditional grades. That's what I knew. And then there's this shift, this ongoing shift and talk about standard-based grading, and I was all for that too. But I have to say, after taking this course, it really resonated and helped me understand clearly what traditional grades are and how it actually hurts our students versus what standards-based grading is and how it's actually useful and helpful to teachers and to our students. What about you? What are your just overall general thoughts about traditional grades and standard-based grading?
I had similar feelings to you, mostly based on my own experiences growing up, that I was always graded on a percentage system. And to me, that made perfect sense. If you got, this grade, you'd average it in with this grade, and here you go. And, just study harder next time or whatever, whatever you had to do. And so it made perfect sense to me. But then when, the whole mastery learning and grading process was explained to me through these courses, and examples were shown to us, I began to realize how punitive the percentage system really is. And it's so punishing for making a mistake. But yet we're supposed to, almost we encourage mistakes because they're learning experiences, and without them you don't grow. And so it actually makes people fearful of making mistakes. And so that was very eye-opening to me. It was really it was a very strong statement in a positive direction for mastery learning, I
No
think, too.
doubt. No doubt. And in the last episode that you were in, you were talking about how mistakes are important in STEAM education, in the education setting, because what you do is those are points, right? An opportunity for students to dig in why that was a mistake and learning from them, correcting them, right? Yeah, so let's jump in to our video. I think it's a formative video, and I think it's a a valuable footage to share, so that it puts everything in context. Um, and yeah, let's watch. Okay.
Way we've always So what's wrong with the way we've always graded in the standard-based system? So let's say I get a test back or an essay and I earned 90%, B. Um, well, what now? What can I do to get better? What did I do wrong? I know I made a mistake, so I'm punished with a lower grade, but I don't know what that mistake is, and I don't know how to do better next time. Um, Also, can I take this essay again? Can I rewrite it? In the traditional system, yeah, sometimes you can, but also sometimes you can't. It kind of depends. So potential problems with this system are I don't know how to improve because I just got a number or a letter and that doesn't tell me what I did wrong or what I did right. I kind of learn mistakes are bad, so I avoid taking risks in the future and I look for easy assignments and I don't challenge myself. If I can't redo this essay, it's really hard for me to demonstrate any growth. Um, and numbers and letter grades are subjective and unfair. That's a pretty bold claim, so let me show you what I mean. Let's look at a typical test. Let's say you have 20 basic fact questions, 5 deeper questions, and 2 beyond class questions. These things weren't taught in class, but it's good thinking to have, and it's good to see if students can do those. So let's say the basic fact questions are 2 points each, and the deeper questions are 10 points each. And the beyond class questions, maybe those are 0 points each, because I think it wouldn't be right to hold a student accountable to something that wasn't taught in class. Well, let's say a student earned 18 out of 20 on the first one, which would be 36 out of 40, and then they got 3 out of 5 of the deeper questions right, and maybe they didn't get either of the beyond class questions right. So a total of 66 out of 90. Well, 66 out of 90 is a 73.3%, a D plus at BCS, or a C at other schools. But what if I decided that the basic fact questions were each worth 1 point, and the deeper questions, instead of 10 points each, were 3 points each? And maybe I decided the beyond class questions were going to be 5 points each instead of 0. Well, in this scenario, if the student performs the exact same way on the test, they end up earning 27 out of 45, which is a 60%, an F at BCS, or a D at other schools. So hopefully you can see in just one quick example the amount of points that a teacher assigns to different questions can really, really impact the overall grade a student gets, even if the student performs the exact same way on the test. And those points, while you might agree with one way and not the other, hopefully you can see that they are pretty subjective. So points are fun and motivating. It's always great to earn a lot of points on a test, but they are subjective and maybe not very fair. Also, traditional grading doesn't account for the growth of a child. Let me show you this really quick. So should students 1 and 4 earn the same grade as students 2 and 5? 1 and 4 both started really low in the trimester and ended doing very well. They both showed a lot of growth over this trimester. Students 2 and 5 both started really high, but by the end, they both scored really low. Should we average all of these scores together and every student in this class earns 79% or a C? Or should we look at students 1 and 4 and say, wow, you guys really showed a lot of improvement, and we kind of look at who they are at the end of the trimester as opposed to averaging who they were throughout the trimester, like at the beginning when they were kind of just practicing things. That's a question you need to look into. So problems with traditional grading that I see, I don't know how to improve. I learn mistakes are bad, so I avoid taking risks in the future. I seek out easy assignments, and maybe I don't even challenge myself just so I can kind of still appear smart and earn lots of points on the assignments I do. Possibly, I can't demonstrate growth if I can't retake a test or something like that. Numbers and letter grades are subjective and unfair, and even if I make a dramatic change for the better, my old self is always holding me back. Even if I do a lot better at the end of the trimester, those couple tests at the beginning, they're really holding down my overall grade.
Wow. You know, right off the bat, I think about my own biases, right, towards particular students, um, and that's as people, you know, you can't help that, right, and have these biases, but come on, I mean, we have to strive to be objective, right, and find objective truth in our students learning. I mean, these are our students that we're addressing, right? These are learners, right? um, and so, like, for me, especially that part where averaging grades, right, where you want to consider who that student is, that learner is currently, not what he was before or who she was before, but who they are now, and acknowledge who they are now as learners, and and erase the past, you know, because they grew from the past. And for me, as a teacher who just holds on to traditional grading, um, I need to grapple with that. I need to struggle with that. That's not fair. I do have to, you know, if they are earning 99 and 100 consistently those past few weeks, that's who they are now. They've mastered the other standards because it's embedded, right, in our current
Sure.
life. And so, um, I don't know about you, Lee, but I need to acknowledge that I do have these biases, especially towards certain students, that I got to stop that. I got to stop that and look at who they are currently. What spoke to you, Lee?
Well, similar to you, and I think we all have those biases. I know I do as well. But it's that last statement of sort of my old self is holding me back, when they were talking about that, which is similar. Like, yeah, maybe 5 tests ago or 5 assessments ago on the same standard that they didn't understand, and now they do. And they've shown me like 3 or 4 times over that they do. Why am I punishing them for, the first 3 assessments that they didn't understand that learning target, or that goal? um, Personally, I always found math to be very difficult as a child, and at some point in my life, and it still is, but something shifted where all of a sudden, oh, that geometry concept makes sense to me now. And so I kind of remember my own learning journey, and that it took me time. Other people got it right away. I took time. I needed time, and not everybody learns at the same pace. So your old self should not be the thing that holds you back. And that was what I took away from, that really said something to me in that video.
And let's talk about how grades are subjective, or the traditional grading of points, right? Points assigned and percentages. I mean, did you see how you could manipulate it any which way?
Sure.
But I mean, those are some arbitrary points that teachers are assigning.
Right.
Yeah. What did anything else speak to you? We were watching that.
Yeah, I mean, imagine that you're the student who actually does get, a 90 or 100 on almost all of your assessments, but something's going on in your life that maybe homework is not really a priority in your family at that moment. Maybe mom and dad work many jobs, and you are watching your brother and sister all the time, and homework just isn't really happening, for whatever the reason, but you're getting these, A's and B's on assessments.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now you've got your zeros averaged in on your homework, that now you don't have an A or a B in a class anymore. But yet you've proven that you have mastered a standard.
Yes.
I don't know. There's so much to be said just for in that circumstance,
Yeah.
that we don't really take the whole person into consideration when you're just looking at numbers and not really examining where those numbers are coming from.
Right. Right. So, so Lee, we get the picture of how traditional grades are a problem. So what do we do? What is the shift? Because I mentioned a shift before, and it's standard-based grading, right?
Mhm.
And for me, like I mentioned, I'm a veteran teacher. I know traditional grading. I know it doesn't work. I know that standard-based grading is the way to go. And I'm learning that now, what that is, finally. So let me share a document with you where it compares the traditional grade book versus the mastery gradebook, standard-based gradebook. So Lee, can you see this okay?
I can.
Okay, great. So yes, so this is what a traditional gradebook on top would look like, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have your homework, your tests, your quiz, just like what you were saying, Lee, right? Um,
Right.
and then consider, like especially Soyeon, this poor thing. Like you're right. What's going on at home, right? But man, you know your content. You know what you're supposed to know. I think. Even this is kind of arbitrary, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
Based on percentages, right? But let's go back to her here in the mastery grading um, standards gradebook, right? Man, Soyeon, like, yeah, you're not turning in your homework, and that could be a different conversation. It may be indicative of something's going on in your home that maybe I can support you with, right? But as far as what you know, I mean, look, you mastered this learning target in algebra, in this learning target, and in this learning target in algebra. You're nailing it, and maybe there are, even in proficiency, maybe there are things that you're lacking that you can kind of fine tune to get that advanced um, mark, right?
Mm-hmm.
So So I this speaks to me down here, the mastery gradebook of, hey, it's all about content standards. Do you know what you need to know in algebra? For me, yes. Yes, you do. Or no, you don't, versus these arbitrary grades up here. What about you, Lee?
Um, yes, to me, because when you're picking out a learning target, it's not necessarily the entire standard. It's a portion of the standard. And so, this person, Suyan, is showing that, yeah, this person is on top of it, but maybe has, yes, other issues with getting their homework in. Maybe, they don't have the tools that they need for their homework at home. Who knows what the reason is. But yet that 10% in the homework is going to bring this student's grade down so far, and it's really just not reflective
Mm-hmm.
of what that student knows.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I look at that, and it's a shame, because, yeah, giving an A for effort is awesome, and maybe it shows that you have perseverance, or maybe it shows, that you tried really hard. But does it tell me that you actually know the content?
Right.
It doesn't really tell me that.
Right. Right. Let's take Nia, right? right here, the same student scored partially proficient on a learning target. Um, but look over here in the traditional grades, right? I mean, how deceiving is that, right? This would be an quote unquote A student, right? But no, wait a minute, hold up. Actually, she doesn't know everything that she needs to know in this particular learning target, solving linear functions. So they're still learning that Nia needs to do, right? This tells me, yeah, where she's just, rocking it, and where she isn't. While this deceives, right? I think she does, but it's very deceiving. No, she doesn't. Um, so Lee, I know you have a concrete example. I love it when you do. I love it when my guests have things to share. A concrete example of I believe, a summative assessment. I,
Um,
I would argue it could also be a formative assessment as well, where if there are things, learning targets that our students didn't master yet, oh, that is something that we need to reteach, do small group instruction, use my resources to help you with that learning. So will you show us what you have prepared?
Sure. So I'm going to share my screen here. And so this is what I prepared here is an example of a tiered assessment. And it's tiered because the student has several options as to where they can enter the assessment. But the first thing that I would want to do is tell the student what they're being assessed on. So the learning target is clear. There's a few learning targets here. There's 3 of them. They're all encompassed within these 2 standards. These are math standards for 4th grade.
And
But
just to clarify, though, learning targets are your standards, right?
they are the standards, but they don't have to be the complete standard. They can be a portion of the standard.
Got it.
And so it really is what it says, is that it's what your goal is for that student to learn at that moment. And so you form your learning targets from the standards.
Got it.
So that they're standards based.
Thank you.
And so, and then on this particular assessment, because it's a tiered assessment, meaning that there's many levels to it, I give the student an option as to where they can enter into this assessment, but I also would like them to explain to me why they think they should enter in either the middle of the assessment or the end, if they're not going to start from the beginning, because we want to make sure that they've been reflective about their learning and why I think that I should start at question number 2 instead of question number 1. But each one of these questions builds upon the question that preceded it. And so as a result, if the student is able to just simply answer question number 3, so question number 1 is a depth of knowledge question number level 1. And so it's basically just a retelling of this math scenario, because if they don't understand the question, there's no way that they can answer it. And then it builds upon that, and it gets a little bit more complex as we move along. And as we move along, the goal is for them to be able to get to level 3, which would be that they're proficient in that learning target. And if they can answer that, they have shown that they have achieved proficiency in that standard. And if they can move on to number 4, then they've achieved mastery of that standard. And mastery level 4 is a DOK4 question, but taking into account that all of these questions are building upon each other. But yet you can enter in at just question number 4 if that's what you feel you should do. But then at the end of the assessment, I give a little part where they sort of have to reflect upon what they've answered, and there's extension questions if they would like to answer that extension question. If they do not achieve a proficient level on this test, they're given an opportunity to retake the test.
I love that.
But the catch here is that they have to come to a review session, 1 or 2 review sessions during lunch, because they can't just say like, oh, let's just give it another try. Like a try really has to be a try. I've put forth effort. And if they don't come to my review session, because I teach 4th grade, I want their parents to tell me that they've worked with them, but there has to be some kind of effort put forth that entitles them to give it another try.
And for me, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, and what I want to say though is that if they take it a second time, and the numbers change the second time around, it's not the exact same test, but it's similar. If they do achieve proficiency the second time around, the first grade is completely wiped away. It's you're forgiven. It's you're a new person. So yes.
I know. I was thinking that same thing about forgiveness.
Right.
Mastery, learning, and grading with forgiveness.
You're forgiven.
Yeah. And for me, it because Lee, how did you have to take your lunch break? Come on now. But for me, it would be, hey, on this day, I'm going to review this concept or this learning target, or I will set aside an assigned time during class, a small group session time to revisit this learning target. So that way, the students are, who want to, or who need that push. For me, first graders kind of need that push to go, no, come on, let's revisit this again.
Yeah.
But in any case, it's your opportunity here is exactly that. Opportunities for students to be self-reflective, self-aware, responsible with their learning. And on the next episode under the Mastery Learning series, we're going to talk about that. Growth mindset versus fixed mindset. And thanks for setting me up for that, Lee. So that's Mastery, Learning, and Grading, a shift from traditional grades to standards-based grades. And I hope you found it eye-opening like we did. And I don't know about you, Lee, but the next day, I revised I had a criteria for my writing, and I share that with my students, and I actually got revisions from them.
That's awesome.
Never
so awesome.
Got revisions from my students before, but making that shift to the learning targets and where they met it and didn't. I didn't even ask. Well, no, actually, I did say for you to show me that you learned, you can resubmit it, and they did, and I was just so excited to get that. And thank you for coming on, Lee, and talking to me about this shift. Teachers, join me again on Teachers Help Teachers. We'll see you next time. Bye.